Last Tuesday I buried my husband, but the truth was even worse. My life was a lie, and I had to ask myself, who betrayed me? I waited in a hotel suite while the concierge closed the door. I had one plan. I had one secret. My wife laughed in the lobby with a man I knew. She thought I was poor. She kissed him in our room. She did not know my plane had landed. She did not know I had a reservation under a different name. I watched them on a small screen in the suite. I felt anger like a storm, but I stayed quiet. What would I do now? My name is Diego. I will tell this story in short lines. I used to be someone. I had a business and a bank account. Then one bad deal and a scam took everything. I lost money, house, and pride. My wife, Anna, stayed for a little while. She said she loved me. But her smile changed when the money left. She called me weak. She left town for people with money. I stayed and worked in small jobs. I cleaned rooms, answered at the receptionist desk, and learned hotel words. I learned how to fix a reservation and how to open a safe. I learned the lobby and the suite. I worked many nights. People looked down at me. Anna told her mother I was a failure. She started another life with a new man. I had to hide my pain. I slept in a cheap room near a big resort. I watched her from a distance. I read her messages on a cracked phone. I cried at night. But I also planned. I saved every coin. I made small loans, sold old gifts, and signed a secret contract. A chance came. A man from a bank called me. He offered a fresh start. I took it. My name changed on paper. I signed with a big firm. My money returned slowly. I learned to wear a suit again. I bought a small plane. I learned to move fast and quiet. I learned how to book a suite under a fake name. I told no one. I told no old friend. I prepared one night. I made a reservation at the resort where Anna and her new man wanted to stay. I planned to watch. I planned to show. I bought a small camera. I booked the suite with a complimentary upgrade. I wrote the words of my revenge on a paper. I kept the paper in my pocket. The next day I went to the resort. I checked in like any guest. I asked for no attention. I sat in the suite and waited. The staff gave a warm smile. The concierge gave me a brochure of amenities. Housekeeping knocked once. The lobby clock showed time. I sat very still. I had one thought, to expose the lie. Then I saw them on the hotel camera again. Her hand on his shoulder. His face so sure. My heart hit my ribs. I wanted to stand and shout. Instead I pressed play again. I needed proof. The file showed a kiss. My hand closed on the paper in my pocket. I prepared to leave the suite. I wanted to show the world. But I also wanted more than shame. I wanted change. I walked to the door, but a knock stopped me. I opened the door a little. Housekeeping stood there. She smiled and said, "Complimentary tea, sir." I thanked her and closed the door. I put the camera in a bag. I left the suite and walked to the reception. I saw Anna at the front desk with the new man. He had a reservation and a loud laugh. I sat at a corner table in the lobby. I listened to their small talk. I heard words like vacancy and suite and checkout. I heard her say my name as a joke to him. He did not know the truth. He called me the man she left. I learned their time together. I watched the concierge hand them a key. I moved like a shadow. I took a short walk to the pool. I made a call to an old friend who now had power. I said one sentence and he understood. He moved fast. He knew the staff and the rules. He promised to help. I felt the power return. My phone buzzed. A message said the camera file was safe. I paid for a bigger table and asked for the hotel's complimentary fruit. I wrote a note and slipped it under their door. The note had a small line, "I am back." I left no threat. I wanted shame, not fear. Then I walked to the lobby where a small crowd was near the concierge. The new man had a call about a surprise. He stood and left to talk in the hall. Anna came back to the desk to find a folded photo. The photo was of her kissing him in our bedroom. Her face turned white. She looked at the photo and then at me. She did not know I watched. The crowd muttered. The receptionist tried to help. I saw her drop the key. Her hand shook. I felt a small joy. The new man returned. He saw the photo on the desk. He read the handwriting. He said, "What is this?" People leaned in. He looked to Anna like a judge. She stammered. She said, "It is not what you think." He asked for proof. I walked forward and showed my face. I took off my hat. The lobby fell quiet. He knew me. For a second there was a sharp silence. Then he laughed loud to hide his fear. He moved toward me and said, "You again?" I said, "Yes. I am the man you thought was gone." He reached for his phone. I smiled and said, "Call the concierge. Tell them the truth. Ask them to play the suite camera." The concierge looked scared. He feared a scandal. He did not want a problem. I had a file and a friend at the resort. The friend had access to the suite camera. The camera played the kiss on the big monitor in the lobby. The crowd saw it. The new man's face went red. He said nothing. Anna cried in public. I felt a sharp cold inside. I had shown power. But power is not enough. I wanted her to feel the truth. I wanted her to know she lost a different life. The new man left with a hiss. People watched them walk away. I felt a new voice inside. What now? I walked out of the lobby into the bright sun. A reporter stood outside the resort. He asked, "Is this true?" I smiled and said, "Watch the video." The crowd wanted more. I heard a name whispered. It was my name and a word I had not heard in a long time, billion. I stopped. The word hung in the air. I walked back to the suite after the crowd left. I felt a weight lift. My hand touched the paper in my pocket. It said, "You will choose." I opened the door. The room smelled of perfume. Anna sat on the bed and held her face. She said, "Diego?" I said nothing at first. I closed the door and sat at the small table. I asked for tea. The waiter brought a complimentary cup. I held it still. I put the file on the table and put a business card on top. The card had a new name and a different company. It had a title some people in our town only whisper, "Investor." Anna looked up. She asked, "What happened to you?" I said, "I worked." I never spoke. I never showed. I am not the man you left. She tried to touch my hand. I pulled away. I said, "You kissed him while I waited in a cheap room. You threw our life away for his jokes and money." She cried and called me a liar. She said, "You are angry and poor. You are not a man of money now." I showed the card. I showed the bank name on my phone. I showed a small certificate. My voice was calm. I said, "I have money now. I bought a small part of the hotel. I have a seat on the board. I can show your photograph to any paper." Her face went pale. She asked, "Why do this now? Why expose me in public?" I looked at her and said, "Because you chose to break a promise. You chose to leave. You made a choice when you kissed him. You betrayed me when you laughed about my name." She tried to kneel. She begged. I said, "I want a word. Tell all your friends the truth. Tell your mother. Tell the man you chose." She cried. I felt small when I saw her cry. I had wanted revenge for a year. I had wanted to feel strong. But seeing her on the bed was different. I felt old anger and new pity. I said, "I will not ruin you with news. I will give you a choice. Leave the resort now. Tell no lies about me. Or I will show the other files to everyone." She looked at the door. She whispered, "Diego, do you still love me?" The question cut me like ice and fire. My body wanted to pull her close. My mind wanted to keep the plan. I stood and walked to the balcony. I watched the sea. I took a breath. I thought of the long nights at the receptionist's desk. I thought of the suite I booked for one night to test her. I felt my power return like a tide. I turned and said, "Love is different now. I have one life left to live. You must live yours honestly." She left the room with her bag. At the door she stopped and said, "I never knew you would come back like this." I watched the door close. Then I heard footsteps behind me. A voice said, "Mr. Silva, the board wants to meet you now." My name on the board. My chance to change everything. I walked down the hall and into a new life, but the hotel's camera had saved one more file. I had not seen everything yet. The board meeting was short. I signed papers and took a seat. People who once ignored me bowed their heads. The new man tried to meet my eye. He left quietly. Anna asked for forgiveness in private texts. I kept one reply. I wrote, "Live honestly." I did not shout or seek more shame. I had my money. I had a comeback. I had learned a lesson that felt like fire. Power can show truth. But power cannot bring the same love back. I sat in the suite one last time. Housekeeping knocked and left a complimentary towel. I looked at the city from the hotel window. I thought of the days I worked at the receptionist's desk. I thought of the nights I kept quiet and learned. My revenge taught me softness. I forgave myself. I forgave my past in a small way. The sea shone like a new promise. If someone hurts you, you can return. You can rebuild. Do not spend your power only to hurt. Use it to fix your life. That day I won money and respect. I lost a wife. I won my dignity. I walked out of the resort with a new name on my card and lessons in my heart. The final file on the camera was not for shame. It was for me. I watched the video again in private and smiled. Then I turned off the screen and left the resort. The end, but a new start began.